Once again, we find ourselves on a Wednesday, July 16th today, 2025, smack dab in the middle of Edge of Eternity's preview season. And last couple weeks we've been doing some vehicle decks. Vehicles are going to become permanently legal in Pauper Commander with the release of Edge of Eternities, which I found out is the 1st of August. So there's literally no lag time between when our novel break the rules month for vehicle commanders ends and the official legality begins. So, effectively just legal a month earlier than everyone else, so to speak. But we're going to venture away from the vehicle stuff today a little bit because I found a card that I really, really like from this new set that I want to kind of build around. And it's this one, Haliya, Ascendant Cadet. So this is a card that kind of hits a lot of interesting boxes. So, Selesnya counters decks, we have not done a Selesnya counters deck yet. I went through all the old deck lists. I didn't see anything there that was like a Selesnya counters deck. It's one of the oldest and most like ubiquitous, like limited archetypes you'll find. Tons of support going back many, many, many years. It's kind of like an old faithful for Selesnya. They just do counter stuff really well. So in Pauper Commander, building a counters deck is not very difficult. There's a lot of great cards for it. It's very fleshed out. It's really deep. And there are a lot of commanders that facilitate it, but I think no one better than this one. I think this is by far kind of the best designed +1/+1 counters commander. A lot of them do things, like they add other counters. They add counters to things, but they don't kind of pay off in other ways. You need your deck to do that. This one adds counters and it pays them off, all in one package, like a good body. Mana cost isn't too unreasonable, just kind of like hits a lot of marks. So we're kind of going to go through this and build a Selesnya counters deck. We did a Orzhov one a couple months ago, but Selesnya kind of is where it's at. You have tons of stuff, a lot of cards that move their counters when they die. You have a lot of cards that proliferate. You have a lot of cards that give trample to creatures that have +1/+1 counters. Tons of support. So we're going to blow through this guy and build a really cool +1/+1 counter deck for Haliya. This is a great commander for people who are just kind of like getting into the format, I think, because again, like it's a card that sets you up and then pays you out for doing something that is not difficult to do. It's very much like I don't want to say on rails, but there's like bowling bumpers, so you can't get too far off track just because like again, there's been so much support for this strategy printed over the last several years that it's really hard to go wrong. So that's what we're doing tonight. This card is great, and let's go through it a little bit. Start off by just reading through it. So 5 mana, 2 white, a green, and 2 colorless for legendary creature movement soldier, 3/3. Whenever Haliya attacks or enters the battlefield, puts a counter on something, and then whenever one or more creatures you control with a counter, with a +1/+1 counter specifically on them, deal combat damage to a player, you draw a card. So this can draw up to 3 cards a turn. If we're attacking each of our opponents with one, if we deal damage to each of our opponents with a creature with a +1/+1 counter, then we draw a card for each one. But it's only 1 card per player, so it is kind of throttled in that way. I really like cards that are throttled like that. Cards that do provide limitations that don't get super out of hand that you have to work to. I think it's really important. Like there are cards like Edric in Commander, right? That whenever any creature deals damage to an opponent, you draw a card. So it's kind of like unbound only by the amount of creatures you have on the battlefield. This one is limited to 1 card per player. I like that a lot. So let's get down to business here. We're just going to start very simply, like with what I think are kind of the baseline cards that we want here. So I don't remember all of them, so we're just going to do a search for that's type line. They're all the cards that give trample. There's a lot of them at this point. Oh, whoops. I did not set the filter to common. There are at least 4. There's at least 5. And we're going to get all of them in here. The redundancy is really important. Like, this is the effect that's going to, like, win us the game. Crowd Ceratox is a good example. Each creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it has trample. This is the templating that we're going for. They vary in mana cost. This one is 4. It's kind of at the upper end of what we're looking at. But it's a bigger creature. These are the cards that can let us win the game. We're also going to play like as many flyers we can justify. Obviously, as I talk about a lot, like the battlefield is really important. Evasion is a very powerful thing to be able to leverage. So we're going to do a lot of that too. So let's get a Crown Ceratox in here. This is kind of like plan A. is trample over everybody. Dusk Shell Crawler is another one. This one is 2 mana, it's a 0/3, and when it enters, it adds a counter to something, so you can just get something trample. This templating you won't find in all of them. For example, like Crown Ceratox does not bring a counter with it. Pride Malkin is another card that does that. It's not the most uncommon. Gnarly Colony, another one, 2 mana, 2/2. You can kick it to give it counters, but it doesn't bring one with it when it enters. Still, this is exactly what we want. Our deck is... Our commander, like... not Aura Gnarlid, whoops. Remove you. Gnarlid Colony. Our commander just adds a lot of counters over the course of a game. It's an enters trigger and an attack trigger, and she's big, so we're going to be doing a lot of attacking and adding a lot of counters to stuff. Okay, and we're back. Scorn Hydra. We'll get to that one. Pride Malkin. 3 mana, 2/1, enters with a counter on, puts a counter on something, gives all your creatures trample. Beautiful. And then the last one's gonna be Tuskar Captain. A Tarkir special. It's got Outlast, so it can make itself bigger. Outlast is a pretty cool ability, not the primary functionality that we're looking for, but there's 5 of these cards that it'll give all our creatures with counters trample, and that's exactly what we want. There are also a handful, not a handful, there's 2, I think, technically 3, but we'll see. I'll tell you why 2. Whenever +1/+1. I think that's the templating that we want to use here. Any second now. There we go. Basking Brood Scale, Evolution Witness, and Knighted Mirror. Basking Brood Scale I hate. I don't like that this card is easy to combo with. We're not really doing much with it combo-wise in this deck, so maybe I'll give it a pass this time. I'm not a big fan of this card in general. It's obviously very powerful. I just don't like what it enables. Okay, let's just put it in there for now, because I don't think we're going to be doing those things. Where's my Evolution Witness? Another very powerful one. Whenever counter is put on it, you return a permanent from your graveyard to your hand. This card's busted. It's like one of the most powerful green cards in the format. And we get to enable it super hard in this deck, just like recur stuff like crazy. And then Knighted Mirror is the other one that I can think off the top of my head. I'm pretty sure there's only 3 in these colors, at least. Whenever one or more counters are put on it, it gets double strike. So it just like beats. And it's going to get trampled most likely. So this thing is going to do some damage. Knighted Mirror. Alright, now we've got those. Let's get some Plains and Forests in here. Just get that out of the way now. This one's going to be like a 5-mana commander. We're going to have some ramp, I imagine. Let's do 37. Whoops. One. Add 1. Oh no. Remove 1. And add 1. There we go. We'll probably do play creatures that we'll do ramp creatures, not spells, because the creatures we can add counters to, and then we can leverage them as threats. We'll just kind of finish going through here. Things that care about counters being put on them. Just real quick. Oh, Poise Practitioner is sweet. Anyway, moving on. We might put that one in here. Probably will. I like that card a lot. I love my Snake Umbra. But again, I don't want to get ahead of myself just like throwing a bunch of stuff in here. Kind of want to keep it a little bit structured in terms of what I'm searching for and what I'm adding. I think it's really easy to just like put a search in and then just like add everything, and then you just have this like kind of hodgepodge of cards that is linked through some like templating similarity, but not through... They could have differing functions and kind of be a little all over the place in terms of like what you want to be doing. So, all right, so we got these, we got those, and now we're just gonna look for cards I care about +1/+1 counters. We start with creatures, I think. Actually, what we'll do first is we'll get some mana dorks. We'll get Llanowar Elves. We'll do the hits. Llanowar Elves. Fyndhorn Elves. There's 6 of them in Selesnya. Llanowar Elves, Fyndhorn Elves, Boreal Druid, Arbor Elf, Elvish Mystic, and Avacyn's Pilgrim. Since we're in Selesnya, we can play Avacyn's Pilgrim. Boy, Scryfall is not moving super quick right now. Fyndhorn Elves. There we go. Oh. Elvish Mystic. Boreal Druid. These are all the 1 mana dorks. And Avacyn's Pilgrim. Probably play some more. We'll go up to the 2 mana ones. Yeah, we'll go up to 2 mana ones, but which ones do we want? We could do like the mirrors, like gold mirror, copper mirror, Ornithopter of Paradise. Yeah, let's do those. Ornithopter of Paradise is good because it's a flyer that we can kind of convert into an attacker. Gold mirror. Okay, we'll try the copper mirror. There we go. Gold mirror. There we go. Alright, so that's what? That's 8 mana dorks. That's okay. Welcome, Bill. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Alrighty, now we're gonna start filling out our creatures here. Einok Bondkin is great. Much like Tuskar Captain, it is a card that cares about our creatures having +1/+1 counters. Gives them all first strike. This card's great. And then there's one that gives reach too that we'll get into later. Graph creatures are awesome. We'll do Aquastrand, Spider, Sporeback Troll. And we'll see these cards later. I'm just adding them in now so I don't go over them. And then Simic Initiate. We can play Simic Initiate, why not? We need a lot of proliferating on this deck, I can tell you that. There's a handful of cards that enter and put a counter on something. So like the floor on these cards is a 2 mana 2/2, right? Like a 2 mana creature, 2 mana 1/1 that adds a counter on to make it a 2/2. That might be good enough. I kind of want to see where we land. There's a lot of like enabling cards and a lot of really good synergistic cards that we probably want to add first before we go back and add in these kinds of things. But yeah. Yeah, like Bomb Beetle is another one. Cold Ice Strong Arm is another one. There's a lot of cards that enter and add counters to things. I'm sure we'll play some amount of them. The better ones are higher on the mana curve. They add multiple counters across multiple creatures, which is better, obviously. There's one that I know I want to play for sure. Area Auxiliary. It's a 4 mana 3/3 flyer, so it's like a phantom monster that supports 2. The card's been very, very good. I play with it in a lot of decks. It's a good one. What's this? Chronicle. We don't need Chronicle. So we have like card advantage built into our commander, so I don't think we really need Chronicle Heroes. Oh, this thing just gets big, doesn't it? Let's play Crowd Control Warden. This thing's a beast. I've always been kind of like amazed by this card. Even in like limited, when I played in like the pre-release for Karlov Manor, this card just seems like way undercosted for how big it can be. It's basically just like, you know, conceivably a 5 mana 8/8. You know, it doesn't trample or anything, but like we have ways of doing that, and it just enters with a ton of counters. This card's just like pretty sick. I don't think we're going to go all the way up to 7 mana for Sight of Sponge Shambler because we have a lot of other ways to give our creatures trample. Even though Sight of Sponge Shambler is sick and drafting is awesome, we're going to play Deepwood Denizen though. Deepwood Denizen taps to draw a card, and the mana cost is reduced by the amount of counters we have on creatures. Welcome, Steven. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Yeah, so it's 6 mana, draw card, 1 less for each 1/1 counter on creatures you control. So it ends up being just like a 3/2 pay green tap draw card. It's vigilance and it carries counters well. It's like pretty aggressively costed. So that one's a good one. Dreadlin Arm is sick. It's a protection spell that adds counters. We may end up playing that one. Oh, this is a new one. Drix Fate Maker. We're gonna play this one. It's another one that gives all our creatures trample. This is one from Edge of Eternities that I didn't think of. So it is Warp, so we can cast it for its Warp cost, and then exile it at the end of the next end step, and then we can cast it with kind of like going on an adventure. So you play it, it does a thing when it enters, and then it goes away, and then you can recast it. It's a 3/2, gives a counter to something, and then gives all your creatures trample. This card's pretty sick. Big fan of that one. Let's see. We're not doing elf stuff, so we're not doing that. Experiment 1 is pretty good. Let's do Experiment 1. Experiment 1 is just a great creature to stack counters on because it regenerates itself. Fairground's Trumpeter is also one that just naturally gets pretty huge. As long as you're adding counters to things, it grows on its own. At the beginning of each end step, if a counter was put on a permanent you control, it also gets a counter. And since our commander puts a counter on something every turn, this is going to be a pretty big slam dunk. Fairgrounds, Trumpeter. And then Faithful Watchdog's another one. Like a Watchwolf, 2 mana, 3/3, Vigilance. But this enters with 3 counters. It's not a base 3/3. It is a 0/0 that adds 3 counters to itself. So it just enables what we're doing without needing any additional help. Faithful Watchdog. This card's pretty good. Yeah, and then you have a lot of cards like Felidar Savior, right? Enters, put 2 counters on things. Fertilid is great, and Shinewend is another one that we'll add to. But these you remove counters to do an effect. This one you get to search for basic lands. Shinewend destroys enchantments, and we're going to play both of these cards. Because through proliferating and just attacking with our commander, we can just keep them stocked. Shinewend also has the added benefit of being a flyer, so it just kind of like very easily gets in for damage and draws us cards off of our commander. This one enters with counters if we plot it. Not the most interesting. Garenbrig Paladin. I love me a Garenbrig Paladin, but not in a 2-color deck. In a mono green deck, I will play Garenbrig Paladin most of the time. I like that card. What people don't realize, I'll talk about Garenbrig Paladin real quick. A lot of things about this card that are great. It's a 5 mana 4/4 in a mono green deck, or if you're doing the Adamant, it's a 5 mana 5/5. And it has evasion in the sense that it can't be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less, so it can't be chumped, essentially. And there are a lot of situations where it's just better than trample. It's kind of weird, but yeah, this card's pretty great. And this form of evasion is actually a lot more powerful than it reads. Anyway. What are we at? 718, and we've got 28 creatures, 66 cards. Okay, we're doing great. Like I said, we'll come back to these cards that just add a bunch of counters when they enter. Null Hunter gets bigger. Null Hunter I like, and the reason I do is because Pack Tactics is an easy threshold to reach. Attacking with 6 power of creatures in a deck like this is almost trivial, and it's an attack trigger, so it grows before it gets to declare blockers. So if we have 6 power of attacking creatures, this becomes a 3/3 before it even gets to be blocked, which is great, and it grows on its own every turn. So we'll play Null Hunter. Things that just like add counters without needing our commander, so we can free this trigger up to put on other things, are valuable, I think. Guardian Gladewalker, another one of those. No. All the H's. There's tons. See, that's what I was saying. Like, there's tons of cards in these colors that care about +1/+1 counters in some way, shape, or form. This enters with a counter if we control another creature with a counter, basically. I mean, it's fine, but it's not particularly inspiring. Let's see. Inspire Inventor. I like that card, but not here. Iron Apprentice enters with a counter. When it dies, we move those counters onto something else. This card is great. There's a handful of other cards that do this exact same thing, and they're all awesome. There's some things that we can grow, and then when they die, we just put them on. We don't lose the counter. So it's a really like good investment target for a lot of what you're doing. Let me just change these things up right now so it's easier to visualize what we're doing here. Okay, so our curve like is not that bad. Iron Prosper, and Iron Shell Beetle, just more creatures that have counters. Ivy, you know what? We're gonna play an Ivy Elemental. The reason why we're gonna play Ivy Elemental, the rate on this card is never great. For example, like Ivy Elemental, it's always gonna be, you know, a 3-mana 2/2 or a 4-mana 3/3. It's either gonna be like, you know, Grey Ogre, Hill Giant, you know, not even Earth Elemental. But the thing is that this card is kind of modular to however much mana we have available or want to put into it. So it really helps us kind of curve out in later turns where we have more mana to devote to it and we want to kind of double spell. We can very easily just make like a 3/3, and it enters with counters importantly rather than like being that big on its own. So we can manipulate those in any number of other ways. I think this card's like deceptively good in a deck like this. It doesn't read particularly powerful, but I think it synergizes really well with a lot of what we're doing, and it really just helps us fill out our curve a little bit, because it can be anywhere on the curve, you know, and it's always going to be a mediocre creature at that point on the curve, but we have that flexibility, and I value that. Jumper, blah, blah, blah. Ivy Lane Denizen. Yeah, I mean, we'll put it in here. Obviously, it's not like going to trigger off everything because we have a lot of white creatures as well. But it just gives us free stuff. And you know what? Free stuff is good. I am not one to turn down free stuff. Kavu Primarch. If it's kicked, it enters with counters. So this card's sick. I don't really like it here, though. It's just like a big thing that convokes. You can kick her. Like this combination of keywords is really cool. And it gets huge if you do it, but not super interested. Another one of these cards that enters puts a counter on something. There's tons of them. Tons of them. We're not going to do the heroic stuff. Yeah, Treetop Snare Spinner is a good one. We'll get there. Longshot Squad, that's the one I was thinking of. So it gives all of our creatures with +1/+1 counters reach. No reason not to play this card. No reason not to. Looks an eavesdropper. Nope. This one, if we have 4 more permanents in our graveyard, we put a counter on something. Possibly. I might come back to this one. We're not like playing to the graveyard very much, so it's kind of something that will have to just naturally happen. And I don't like cards that have a fail rate. You know, I like a card to come in and do a thing, and then whatever happens, you know, we still get some value out of it at that point. You know. Mulgriff Millipede, creature in graveyard. No, not interested in that one. Sacrifice of food. Nope. Mere Scrapling sacrifice, but counter. Nope. Nope. Nyxborn Hydra. I alluded to this earlier. This card is busted. All the Modern Horizons 3 commons are insane, and Nyxborn Hydra is no exception. It bestows. It's scalable like Ivy Elemental, so it's the worst case scenario. It's an Ivy Elemental, which is good enough for this deck as we've established. But it also has Reach and Trample and gives Reach and Trample to whatever you enchant with it, and whatever you enchant with it also gets +1/+1 for each of the counters on the Nyxborn Hydra. So it does it all. This card's insane. I don't understand how this card is a common. It really is kind of baffling how you picture, you know, cards that they put at common, uncommon, rare, whatever, and a part of it is like how many copies of this card like do you want to see in a draft, right? More problematic cards, more complex cards, you want fewer copies floating around. Commons tend to be simpler. They support strategies. They're kind of like the glue that holds everything together. You want those to show up a lot more. Nyxborn Hydra, I don't know why you'd want like 5 Nyxborn Hydras floating around in a draft. Like, I can't imagine that's a pleasurable experience for anybody. Just losing to this card. It's a beating. Orchard Elemental is cool, but no, I don't want to play a 6-drop, you know. Phantom creatures are good here. I'll admit it. I don't like them personally, but they're good here. I'm not going to play them. I may. There's a lot of things, like, there's so much support for this strategy that there's going to be a lot of like things left on the cutting room floor, and this is why I think it's a great avenue for like a newer player. Is that there's a lot of different things that you can do. You can really lean heavily into cards like Pollen Bright Druid, not necessarily this one specifically, but cards that add counters when they enter, so you can buff things selectively. You can do more stuff like this, and you can do the inspired things, heroic stuff. There's a lot of options for +1/+1 counter synergies. There's a lot of ways you can go. I'm just doing it my way. Poise Practitioner is a great one. Whenever you cast your second spell, it gets a counter and it scries. So just by double spelling, it gets bigger and lets us scry, which is sick. Pollen Bright Druid, we're going to play not because it is a creature that adds a counter when it enters, but because it has the option to proliferate, which in this deck is going to be a lot of power being put onto the battlefield. We're going to play a lot of other proliferate cards as well. And the great thing about these is that like even cards like this, even if we play this card, it enters, proliferates, and it's just a 1/1, we can attack with our commander and put a counter on it and then start growing it, it's like, there's just a lot of flexibility. That's why like playing Mana Dorks is totally fine, because we can always just do that, Rebel Belt Maverick I like, but not here. Rose Cut Knight, no. Sword and Symbio, what, can make a Saproling or give it a counter? Not interested. Scourging Bander's interesting. We can move the counters around. I kind of like it. The floor on this card is a Grizzly Bear, which is respectable. I love Grizzly Bears. Servant of the Scale is another one like Iron Apprentice. Enters with a counter when it dies. You put X counters on target creature, where X is the number of counters on Servant of the Scale. So the counters don't necessarily move, but another creature gets however many counters it had. It's not going to show up in the searches Enduring Bond Warden, so I'm just going to throw that in here. Because this card does not have the text +1/+1 counter on it, it's included in the backup reminder text. This is just another Servant of the Scale, right? We can put a counter on something when it enters. When this creature dies, its counters go on something else. So you put the counter on itself, 1/1, a 1-mana 1/2 functionally. When it dies, its counter goes elsewhere. Or we can put it on something else, to move other counters around if we want to. Here's Shine Wend. Talked about this one a little bit earlier. 2 mana, 0/0, enters with 1 counter. Flies, pay 2 to remove a counter to destroy an enchantment. So it's a little bit of removal. It flies, so even if we attack for 1, it deals 1 damage, we get to draw a card with it. I think I've already put it in, right? Yeah, there it is. So this card's great. A lot of cards that are good in like Cutzel decks are going to be good here. It's just like a lot of the same kind of infrastructure that we want. Slith Ascendant is cool, but I'm not particularly interested. When this dies, it puts a 1 counter on something. It's not the most impressive. Spikes are interesting. They're interesting because you can move the counters around. The rates are not great, like a 3 mana 2/2. I might abstain on that one for now. Squad Captain we're definitely going to play, though. This thing just gets huge. It's a 5 mana 2/2, but it enters with a counter for each other creature we control, and it has Vigilance. Squad Captain is sick, and we're going to play it. Squad Captain, there we go. There's another one in this set, Edge of Eternities, that has a similar text. It grows based on how many creatures you have when it enters. Starport Security is cool, but we're not going to play it. It's just a tap ability that costs less if you control a creature with a counter. It's just a synergy piece. I like the synergy of it. I don't like the actual card itself. Star Pupil is another one of these Enduring Bond Warden, Servant of the Scale, Iron Apprentice cards that we can move its counters around when it dies. Again, like, these cards are just great because we can kind of without fear just dump a bunch of counters on them. If they destroy a creature or trade in combat, those counters just go elsewhere and we don't lose anything. And it's great. It's awesome. Sunshower Druid, another one of these enters, adds a counter. This card's cool, but, not the best. Supply Runners is another great one. Supply Runners is an exception to what I've been saying about, creatures that have that text when they enter, it puts a counter on something. Supply Runners puts a counter on everything. Each creature you control gets a counter. Scythe Cat has landfall. We're not really playing into landfall because we're playing with dorks instead of spells or other things. I might go back to Scythe Cat just because it just grows on its own, and it already has trample. It's a good card. You know what? I'm just gonna play it. We're gonna play Scythe Cat. I might have to cut a couple creatures just because we're getting kind of crazy here. Running into that age-old problem of too much synergy. Treetop Snare Spinner. It's a 4 mana 1/4 spider with Death Touch. So you can pay 4 mana to put a counter on something. And it's kind of an unbound ability, or 3 mana rather, put a counter target creature. Okay, we'll try to limit to only the stuff that I find really impressive because we're running out of space. Running out of space. Okay, looks like we're kind of at the end anyway. Okay, that's fine. Let's do... let's look at some backup stuff. Backup is sick. It's one of my favorite keywords. Where's Chomping Kabu's a good one. Basically, backup, you know, it enters, puts a counter on something, and then that thing gets the ability of the creature that you're you know, putting the counter on with. So, Chomping Kabu, 3 mana or 4 mana 3/3 enters. You put a counter on something else. That creature for that turn cannot be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less. And we talked. I already mentioned like that form of evasion is really powerful, very underrated. I like Chomping Kabu a lot. Golden Scale Aeronaut. I'm not going to play a ton of these because I need room for other things. But I really like this one, and I'm going to play Golden Scale Aeronaut because these two cards provide evasion. So we can kind of like guarantee a card draw if we need to with stuff like this. Like this one gives flying. It's more expensive, obviously, but you know, it's what it is. And our commander like adds counters to these things as well. So like even if we put the backup on something else, we can still grow these things with our commander. Not really much equity left on the table. All right, now we just want to proliferate. We already have Palm Break Druid, Vorax, Spore Singer, Bloom Hulk. We'll play Daggertooth. I like less because it needs to be dealt damage, and I understand that you can be like, you know, attack for 4. They choose not to block, so you don't proliferate, and they take 4. But then we just have like a 4 mana 4/3 unblockable creature, and I don't really care about that. I want to do things that make our commander look cool, which Adaptive Spore Singer does and Vorak does. And Bloom Hulk. And these are just like the creatures that proliferate. There's a lot of spells that do too. 86 cards already. We're gonna have to cut down. Alright, let's get just the spells. I can think of a few off the top of my head that I want. Encouraging Crisis is 1. This one adds a counter to something and then proliferates. Thirsting Roots, Smell Fear, and Unbound Potential. These 3. This is a fight spell that proliferates. This is a Lay of the Land that proliferates. This one's that it puts 2 counters on things or proliferates, or you can entwine it. So like all these 3 cards are great. Smell Fear, and we'll place like some good synergistic removal here as well, in addition to Smell Fear. Thirsting Roots is like this card gets people because it's 1 green and like it can easily add like 5-6 power to the board. It's a really good return on investment. And then we'll play Unbound Potential as well. This one's an instant, so you can instant speed proliferate, which is sick. These ones are all sorceries. This one is an instant. Okay, let's... Wonder Strike is expensive. I don't care. Oh yeah, we can play Carnivorous Canopy too. Just a card that destroys an artifact or enchantment. Carnivorous. I just don't know how to spell. Oh, the dog is screaming in the background. That's the thing about puppies, man. They like to scream. Carnivorous. Did I spell it right? Yeah, Carnivorous. There we go. We'll also play Brave Ties. This is a card much like Carnivorous Canopy, except you know, it destroys an artifact, enchantment, or exiles a card from a graveyard, or you can reinforce. So you discard it and put a Welcome counter on something. This card's pretty cool. Other things we can do, there's a couple other removal spells that I want to play here. One of them is Titanic Brawl. These cards are not like super like OP, but they mesh really well with what we're doing. And then Mutant Spray. I'll show you these cards in a second. They're both fight spells. I've talked about them before, I think. I've played other green decks that have plus one counters in them. Not necessarily like a devoted theme like this, but Mutant Spray, target creature you control with a 1/1 counter fights another creature. It's a 1 mana instant speed fight spell, so like the rate is really good on this. Titanic Brawl is very similar. It's a 2 mana fight spell, costs 1 less if you target a creature you control with a 1/1 counter on it. So functionally, it's a 1 mana fight spell, but you could also just cast it for 2 mana if you want to. Whereas this one's like kind of bound to the counters being on the creature in order to fight. So it's good. We're gonna play Ram Through as well because we're gonna be giving our things trample, and Ram Through is just like a really great green burn spell essentially. For the uninitiated, 2 mana instant target creature deals damage equal to its power to another target creature. So like a rabbit bite or something. But if the creature controls trample, all the excess damage carries over to the player. So if you have a giant thing, you ram through their little thing, and then you just do a bunch of damage to them. And then we can also just do stuff like, I've got 96 cards. Let's look at some let's look at some spells that do this. So we'll do instants and sorceries. Ancient Animus. Oh yeah, we'll play that one because we have a legendary commander. So Ancient Animus is actually pretty cool. Ancient Animus is a 2 mana fight spell, but if the creature that you are fighting with is legendary, you put a 1/1 counter on it. This card is really good in Finn the Fangbearer. It's also really good here. So I like that. There's also like a ton of other things to put counters on stuff, right? We really don't want to get too bogged down. We can do some protection spells. That's good. Like Feet of Resistance, Gaia's Gift. We'll do a couple of those. Feet of Resistance gives protection from a color and a +1 counter. And Gaia's Gift gives a bunch of keywords and a +1 counter and protection. So you'll see like, this one, put a counter, gains protection for color of your choice. Put a counter on a creature, gains reach, trample, hexproof, and indestructible. It's a really great protection spell, one of my favorites. If I had more room in the deck, I'd play things like Gift of the Viper or Homestead Courage. I like Homestead Courage a lot. I guess I do. Lifecrafter's Gift is kind of like a proliferate spell. Yeah, we're going to play Lifecrafter's Gift because it's instant speed. There are a couple sorcery speed abilities that do this, or sorcery speed spells, but I like Lifecrafter's Gift better because it's an instant. So it puts a 1/1 counter on a creature, and then you put another 1/1 counter on each creature you control that already has a counter on it. So it's kind of like Proliferate in a functional sense. I might play Homestead Courage if oh no, I'm at 100. Okay, let's just finish going through this, make sure. See, like Now for Wrath, Now for Ruin is a good example. Puts counter everything, gain vigilance, ring tempts you, but it's a sorcery. I like the instant speed one a lot better, I think. Oof, Soul's Might is pretty cool. Soul's Might is pretty cool. Yeah, I know. Gift of the Viper is a really, really powerful card. Another one of those like Modern Horizons 3 green commons that's just like insane for no reason. Oh, Travel Preparations. Let's play Travel Prep. That card's sick. We'll play Travel Prep and Homestead Courage, and I'll find room for them. I like Homestead Courage. It's a 1 mana white spell, puts a 1/1 counter on a creature and gains vigilance, and has flashback for 1 white. And then Travel Prep puts a counter on up to 2 creatures, and it flashes back. So you get a lot of value out of these cards with the flashback. And let's just cut some stuff. Longshot Squad will cut because I don't really care about blocking with reach. Cut Simic Initiate. That's all we need to do, right? Those are probably the 2 cards I care about the least. Okay, so this seems okay. Let's get some lands in here, and then we'll bring it to, and we'll do some testing. The puppy does not like being in the crate, which is unfortunate because she ends up in the crate a lot because she won't stop chewing up the underside of our sofa. But, just pitbull puppy stuff, That's what they do sometimes. Alright. I'm not going to go too deep on lands. We're going to play like the ones that are typed. I just like playing those because it tends to matter sometimes. Arctic tree line. Hello, Arctic tree. There we go. Something grove. I don't remember the name of it, but it should pop up in this. I'll know when I see it. Radiant grove. Cave of Temptation and Captivating Cave. Yeah. Play both of these. We can afford to have a couple colorless lands. So we can do Cave, Temptation, Cap. What did I do? Which one did I just do? I forgot already. Okay, so we'll do Captivating Cave and Opal Palace. And then we'll do just colored lands the rest of the way down, I think. But yeah, like you get an idea of just how much support there is for +1/+1 counters. It's absolutely insane. Every set just sees so many more cards that fall into that, you know, range of effect. You could build a deck like this a million different ways. It's one thing I love about it. Command Tower. Don't need like a ton of duels, I find, in 2-color decks. But we'll play a couple. I'm not gonna play Idyllic Grange. It's a white land that enters. If it enters tapped unless you control 3 other planes, and when it enters, you get to put a counter on something. If it enters untapped, you get to put a counter on something. In a 2-color deck, I don't want it. All right, so let's play Ash Barrens. We'll play a little bit of fixing. Ash Barrens is a good one. We'll play a couple more duels, I think. There's one, where is it? Botanical something. Botanical Plaza, we'll play that one. We'll play Blossoming Sands, just the one that like gains us a life. I think that's fair. Just like an incidental life, you know, it tends to matter sometimes, and it's not a bad card. All right, so what are we looking at? 25. Oh, we got a really heavy in green. Okay, so let's cut. What I need to cut 9 cards. So we'll cut 6 plains, 3 forest. Well, we'll go a little more. Where are we at now? 50. We'll do one more. Okay, that should be adequate, I think. All right, so we got a deck. Let's bring it in and see what happens. Yeah, Golgari, like any of the Abzan color combinations is really kind of like spoiled in terms of +1/+1 counter stuff. That's why like the dragon from Tarkir Dragonstorm is like so good. There's a big flyer that just adds a bunch of counters to stuff, and it's Abzan, so you get all access to all the colors. All right, play test. Here we go. We've got some stuff. Got a crawler. We got one of these. Got a poison. Okay, this is pretty okay. Let's draw. I'm not gonna be doing like a ton for a little bit. In the event, well, I guess we can hold on to Pollen Bright Druid. We can just play this, put a counter on it when it enters. That's why like the floor on this card is just like a 1/4. It blocks really well. Don't really need to do much else with it right now. Got a lot of ways to give our guy trample, that's for sure. 3 mana, we can play the Practitioner. Turn 4, we can double spell this turn. We can do 1, 2, play the Gnarly Colony. And oh, you know what we'll do actually instead? We'll warp this. So it enters, put a counter on something. We'll put it on this. This is just on the battlefield for this turn, and then we'll cast Palm Break Druid. Trigger this because it's our second spell. We'll scry 1. We'll put this on the bottom. At this point, I just want an untapped land so I can get my commander on the battlefield. Bottom of the library, and then we can proliferate, or we can just put a counter on this. It's tough. I mean, there's an argument to be made either way. I think I'm just going to proliferate. We're just going to put counter here, counter here. That seems fine. And this goes to exile for us to cast later. All right, next turn. Shoot. Well, let's play the Ornithopter. We can also play this Gnarly Colony, which triggers our guy again. Scry. It's not bad. I kind of want that, actually, now that we can cast our commander. Okay, next turn. Now we're going to cast our guy. Boom. Let's put a counter on this. Alright, then we attack. Let's say we get through with this because it's a 6/7, and no one wants to block it because it is trample, or they can't really do much with it. So we're going to draw a card. Then we'll go to next turn. So what do I have? These creatures have counters. And then I've got these guys over here. Alright, Scythe Cat's okay. We've got 5 mana. So what we can do is we can just cast our Courage in Crisis. So we'll put a counter here. No. Put a counter here. Because we're going to proliferate. And then we're going to proliferate. So we go 1 there, 1 here, 1 here, 1 here. And then we can leave up our protection spell. Then we'll go to combat and, just crash in, like 1 at each player or whatever. We'll put a counter on her this turn. And then say we draw 2 cards. It's, conservatively. What we could even do now is just cast Shinewind and trigger our Practitioner and then Scry again. We'll leave land on top. Perfect. And now we just kind of have like a ton of things we can do. So we're like in a really good spot here, obviously. So Shinewind is sick. What can we do? We can put a counter on everything. We can just get Idling down and then just start casting our green creatures. We can hold our land, cast the Scythe Cat, and put a counter on it. There's like a lot of stuff to do. This is kind of impressive. Then we can go to combat, start like putting counters on the Shinewind. Draw a couple more cards. Yeah, alright. That feels pretty good, doesn't it? We got a tap land, some other stuff. Bondkin, removal spell, protection spell. This thing ain't so bad. Draw. I'm going to play a tap land on turn 1 even though we have the opportunity to ramp, because the reason we have these things in here is so we can get up to 5 more reliably, and we're not doing that on turn 2, so no need to get this out there turn 1. Alright, that's a good one. So now we're going to play this, and we're going to play the Servant of the Scale. Just get these guys out here. Let's put a counter on him. Ceratok is good. Just keep deploying creatures. We can even just like Outlast this thing if we have nothing else to do. But like we're playing creatures and engaging in the game. This is what, turn 3? And we're just casting spells. That's really what we want to be doing. And now we can cast our commander. Let's just do it. Let's just do it. Enters, we'll put a counter on this. And then we'll go to combat. We'll just attack with our 3/2 first striker. No one wants to block it. We'll draw a card. Next turn. So I've got 6 mana and a lot of stuff to do. Let's get the Ceratok out there. Just like a big beefer. Oops, not that one. Ceratok, and now we have enough mana to have some removal spell or a protection spell. We'll hold this crawler for now. Go to combat. Let's put a counter here. Just like start drawing this guy. Let's draw an extra card, let's say. We'll then block this thing. We'll just get in with our 2/2. The next turn. Swarbeck Troll is a really good one. Just use our... No, we'll just do this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Swarbeck Troll enters with 2 counters. And we can use this to regenerate our creatures, which is pretty good. We'll go to combat. Attack, attack, attack. We'll put one... Let's say here, right? They block this. Oh no, our guy dies. We'll put 2 counters on this. Not so bad. Not the worst. And then we have, 2 big tramplers, so we'll draw 2 cards. Next turn. Okay, see now Null Hunter's gonna start doing stuff. We're gonna see Null Hunter in action here. We're also gonna play out this gold mirror, or this copper mirror rather. Just get this guy out there, so that we can start doing more ramp stuff. We'll put those over there. We've got stuff here, so let's just go to combat, right? You know, we'll attack one at each player, and let's say, you know, we gotta cast a spell here. We gotta trigger first. We'll put a counter on this. Oh no, they're gonna, you know, double block our commander. Let's give it protection from something. Put a counter on it. Great. Easy. Easy. Right. And we'll draw 2 cards. A lot of lands. But that's not bad. That's not bad for us. More mana we can leave up to just regenerate all of our things forever. So now watch this. Now we're going to just start drawing this Null Hunter every turn. So we go to combat. Let's put a counter on this thing. This thing gets a counter when it attacks from Pack Tactics. Whoops. And now we're just going to start like, whoops, not one counter. We'll draw... We're just drawing a million cards now. Like, that's kind of the problem with these decks faced in the past, is you just run out of gas. You just play all your stuff, and you aren't drawing a lot of cards. Celestia's not really good at that. This card is very good at that. It's very easy to enable, and it draws you a lot of cards. Let's do one more. It's 751. We got time for one more. That's still one lander. We're not going to do that. That's a one lander. We're not going to do that. This is a 1, 2, 3. Got some stuff to do. Okay, a lot of tap lands, but like we're not racing, right? So it's fine. Draw for turn. I'm going to play out our tap lands here. Get those out of the way, because we're not really doing anything else. Next turn, so our turn 3. Let's just get this guy out there. Just establish this thing. Turn 4, we've got that. We'll play a Tuskguard Captain. Now we have our 5th land. We have 2 white, green, 1, 1. Play this, put a counter here. We'll attack. Why not? We'll say we draw a card. Draw. Now now the world's our oyster. Let's do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We'll play Golden Scale Aeronaut. We'll put a counter here. Give this flying until end of turn. We'll attack, put a counter here. Draw 1 card. And then we'll outlast this. Why not, right? We have outlast. Next turn, Knighted Mirror. Oh shit. So now we have tons of stuff to do. We've got like all of our creatures will draw us cards now. One of them flies, which is awesome. We can add more counters to stuff. We can proliferate in multiple ways. We can add counters to everything with this. This thing I want to establish right now because it's insane. This thing's gonna pay off big time for us. And then we got 4 mana. We can draw a card with this. 1, 2. We've got 4 counters, so this costs 2 mana to do. But let's just like... Yeah, let's hold off. Let's just, we'll draw a card. Why not? And then we'll go to combat with this and draw another card. I've got 7. All right, next turn. Now we're gonna just wreck people with this Knighted Mirror. Because what we're gonna do is this. We're gonna go to combat, right? Attack, 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 attack. This trigger on the stack. We can put this, or we're gonna attack with this too. All our things are trample, so we'll just we'll target this with the counter, and in response we will adapt it. So it gets double strike, gets another one. Then we have a 4/4 double striking trampler coming in, and we're going to draw at least 1 card off of this, possibly more. So let's just say 1. We've got our land for turn played. We've got 5 more mana. So post combat, we can just cast this. Actually, I want to hold the supply runner. I guess it doesn't really matter, right? Like, because this is just like proliferate. Let's just cast the expensive one now, and just put a counter on everything now. Why not? So like, look how huge everything is now. And it's only going to get bigger because we can proliferate next turn in 2 ways. We can put more counters and stuff like with this. Yeah, this is pretty sick. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. This is fun. Counters decks are there's a lot of tracking, obviously, with dice, but the cards are very strong. Very strong. So okay, we've got our supply runner. Now we can do this. One, two, let's just tap out to colorless lands. We'll cast Courage and Crisis. We'll put a counter here. So now all of our things have counters again, and then we'll proliferate. Trigger gets double strike. Got a huge flyer. Got a huge ground guy. You know, say go to, you know, let's say they kill our Tuskguard captain. Oh no. Cast our Ceratok. Boom. Gotcha. Didn't see that one coming, did ya? And now we just have like a bunch of stuff, right? We've got 6/5, 6/6, 5/6, 6/6 double strike, all of trample, 4/4 trample. Go to combat. We'll put the counter on this thing, make it a 5/5. We'll draw 3 cards. We can cast Elvish Mystic, which why not? We'll do that. Yeah, no, I have Bonkin. And now we can just like, let's proliferate again. Let's Adaptive Spore Singer. Just keep getting huger and huger. And just drawing more and more cards, right? Yeah, I'm on board. Okay, so let's get in, what, 756, we'll call it there. We'll start going into the spiel. So like, as you guys saw, right? It's hard to keep a deck like this to 100 cards because there's so many cards that do exactly what you want a deck like this to do. It's really just a function of this being a limited archetype that's existed for many, many, many years. It's kind of a shoe-in. Like Selesnya counter stuff is very easy to do, and it's very easy to support, and it really just dovetails into other color combinations really nicely. So that's why it's just like a really great thing to have. And this card is just like the best +1/+1 counters commander I think we have in the format, if for my money, just because it gives you the counters and it draws you cards. Like this card is really sick, and it's so easy to enable too. As you saw, like there's tons of cards that give all your things trample. There's other creatures that have otherwise they have evasion. There's things that are just so big that people aren't going to want to trade in combat with your stuff. Like it's free real estate, right? And then we have all these other cards too, like Travel Preparations. I didn't cast it in that last game, but you got to see, or at least like look at a board and kind of envision how a card like this would play. Like we can just like give our Knighted Mirror double strike for like 3 more turns with the Spore Singer, right? We can proliferate 1 turn. Next turn we Travel Preparations. Turn after that we flashback Travel Preparations. Same thing with Homestead Courage, except it's cheaper and it gives something Vigilance. Tons of synergistic fight spells, tons of synergistic removal spells. It's really just like a wealth of stuff. Hold on. There was a card that I want to put in here. Creatures you control. Not land. It's an Edge of Eternity card. I'm gonna run out of time looking for this card. It costs 4 mana. Ordered by mana value. Does it exist? Is it on Scryfall? It's like a 4 mana 2/2 that enters and it gets a 1/1 counter for all the creatures you control. Maybe it's not here yet. We'll put it in when it is. Anyway. Alright, not to get carried away. Alright, wrapping up. Deck list is going to be in the description. Bookmark to all the deck lists we've made are going to be in the description as well. So everything's going to be there. Take this deck, pull it apart, put it back together, do whatever you want with it. It's yours to do with what you will. A couple quick things. This coming Monday, next Monday, what day is that? That's the 21st. We're going to be streaming some gameplay. We're going to be playing some vehicle decks. It's going to be me and the PDH Goon Squad. Myself, Alcadron, Dave the Alcadron Vader, Bobby Fine, and Sniff Howe repping the PDH Pals. We're going to play some vehicle games. That's going to be a hoot. I've got a pretty sweet brew put together. Doing some Black Mage Rot stuff. Looking forward to that. And then that weekend is the PDH Pauper Commander Championship at RIW Hobbies. This is the 3rd year we've been doing it. I've been up there all 3 years. This is my 3rd year doing it too. Going to be doing commentary on the RIW Twitch channel all day for those games. It's a really sweet event. If you're in the Midwest or within driving distance of Livonia, Michigan, and you like playing PDH, I definitely recommend making the trip because it's a lot of fun. It's gonna be Saturday. I think it starts at like noon or something like that. It's on their. You'll probably find it on their website, RW Hobbies. I don't remember the website, but if you Google RW Hobbies, it'll be there. But that's where I'm gonna be on Saturday. On that Saturday, the 25th. No, 26th. I fly up the 25th. Anyway, that's gonna be a hoot. And obviously on social media, I'll be posting links to the coverage and things like that. So I think that's everything. Obviously, the last thing we'll mention, as always, links to Trevor Project and Trans Lifeline in the description as well to donate your hard-earned dollars to that cause. Because you know, if you don't believe strongly in that, I don't know what to tell you. And with that, have a wonderful +1+1 counter-filled week. It's 8 o'clock, so I gotta go. Bye bye now. I love you all, etc., etc., and we'll see you next time. Bye bye.